This is the 사정전, and the name 사정 means to think once more before doing politics. So you can see how much Koreans valued the king's decision making. On days without the 조회, called the morning assembly, the king would have more simple morning assemblies called 상참 right here in front in the 편전. And even days without these morning assemblies, the high-ranking officials would meet here at the 편전. Sangcham was usually held around 4 or 5 a.m. When King Sejong was in power, he never forgot to conduct the morning assembly every day at 3 a.m. One day, official Uijong Yugwan asked King Sejong, "Is it difficult to hold your morning assembly every morning? So how about we do it every other day?" King Sejong replied, "You are probably tired because you're getting so old, so send someone else if you're tired." The working time of the officials changed as a result of the king's work style. For example, it was normal for the officials to work late into the night because King Yeongjo never stopped working on a problem until it got fixed. In King Gojong's case, the officials went home at dawn because the king would start the work late at night. When the sun rose, the king and the officials attended academic and political debates called Gyeongyeon. It was normal for the king to study before breakfast. During Gyeongyeon, the king and the officials studied the classics, history, and Neo-Confucianism, then discussed national affairs together. This is the Gwanghwamun, which is the bedroom of the king. You can see that it's different from other palace buildings as it does not have the white support beam called the Yongmaru. Yongmaru in Korean means dragon support beam. And since the dragon was a symbol of the king, when the king was inside the Gwanghwamun, there will be 2 dragons under one sky, which doesn't make sense. So they removed the Yongmaru so that because they were worried that it might bring about bad omens and bad luck for the king. The Gwanghwamun is also situated on a stone foundation called the Worde, which will be used for little parties or banquets in the Gwanghwamun. And if you look inside, you can see that there are doors hanging from the support beams, and these doors could be also flung down. So during the winter times when it was very cold, they actually closed all those hanging doors so they would conserve the heat inside the building. And in summer times, like right now, they would hang them open so that wind can go through the building and cool the whole building. And about the inner structure of the Gwanghwamun, the king's room was in the center, while the other smaller rooms were used by the maids, which surrounded the king's quarters. This was so that maids could be besides the king whenever the king had an emergency or got an illness, so they could help the king. Now I will tell you about the king's morning and the rest of his schedule. The king started the day with the ringing of the bell, which announced the opening of the city. At 4 in the morning, the bell was rung 33 times. The king had to wake up when the bell rang to be an example for his subjects. To announce his awakened state, he would cough loudly, and he neatly put on his royal robe, gonryongpo, and the headwear, ikseongwan, and the rest of his uniform. When the bell rang, the king would wake up to greet the royal elders. If he was busy, he would send a eunuch to greet them. It was normal for the kings and the officials to work together in national affairs. Therefore, the start of the day began with the formal greeting. This event between the king and officials is formally known as the 조회. We'll talk about the 2 chimneys in the Gwanghwamun Hall. And all palace buildings at the time used the Korean traditional heating system, ondol, to power the heating systems. And they actually use only charcoal for fuel. And when you use charcoal for fuel, it creates some smudge and soot on the chimneys. And that's the reason why they separated these 2 chimneys from the actual building, as the king's bedroom should always be clean. And if you look at the chimney itself, you can see that it has some Chinese characters as patterns. This one says 만수 무강, while the one on the east side says 천세 만세. These 2 Chinese characters, patterns, were written so that in hopes of the king's health and longevity. And there are also patterns surrounding the Chinese characters, which is called 무시 무정, which means there's no start and no end. And these patterns were built so that in hopes of the endless prosperity of the Joseon Dynasty.
좀